Hi everyone! So yesterday was the release of the book Hidden Bodies by Kepnes, which is the second book in her series. I'm not really sure what the series is called, but the first book was called You, and it was about the main character of Joe Goldberg, who was kind of crazy, and he became really obsessed with a girl that he randomly met at a bookshop where he worked. And then he just did a bunch of things like stalking her, you know, like looking in her window, doing things like that. And of course, eventually things escalated to a whole other level, and it was just crazy. But I love that book, and when I found out that Kepnes was coming out with Hidden Bodies, the second book in that duology at the moment, but I guess she might come out with more books. I saw on social media that she mentioned that she was working on another book, so I think there may be a third book. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or if it's just going to be an actual series of books, but we'll just have to wait and see. Hidden Bodies follows the same character of Joe Goldberg, who ventures out to a new territory. The book You took place in New York City, whereas this one starts out in New York, and then Joe makes the way over out west to California. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I loved the first book. And I think that, I guess my expectations after reading the first book were so high that I don't think any book could have really lived up to it, and this book was a little bit different in its structure compared to the first book, so I feel like that's probably why I didn't love it as much as I loved the first book. I couldn't put this book down, and it was really fast-paced like Kepnes' first book, and it was a real page-turner for me. I read it within a couple of days, and I was really interested in it. I was always excited to find out what happened next, and it was a really good read for me. I really enjoyed it. So in that sense, if you like the first book, You, and you want to know what happens next, I would highly recommend that you read Hidden Bodies, because it takes a story to a whole other level, and there's just way more things going on in it, and I really enjoyed that. Now, there are some things that I didn't really enjoy about this book that I feel like were done much better in the first book. One of those things was the fact that I feel like the setting there's too many different settings that took place. So the book starts out and Joe is in New York, and then he flies over to California. So that's the next setting. And then there's a vacation taken to Mexico, which is another setting, and then he goes back to New York at one point. So I just felt like there's too much. There was too much going on. I liked it better in the first book where everything was concentrated in New York City, whereas in the second book I felt like it was almost all rushed. There was just a lot going on, and it just felt like it would have been better if maybe he went to California and just stayed there the entire time without moving around so much. But that was just my personal opinion. Maybe some people thought that the first book was a little slow with just New York City being involved, but I thought that the second book could have been better had there not been so much moving around involved. I also liked the first book better because there was one main goal. Like, he was out to do something, that's all that he focused on, whereas in the second book I feel like his focus was very spread out. He didn't have one thing that he really needed to take care of. So he was kind of taking care of a few different things along the way, and to me it almost felt like it got kind of out of control, because in the first book it was very real. Like, if someone told me that actually happened, the whole story, I would probably believe it, because it was pretty believable. I mean, it was very real to me, and that's why it was kind of scary in a way, because like, he was the kind of character who could totally be walking down the street and you'd never know, and he would just be such a creepy, stalkery guy. Whereas in this book I feel like he was able to pull off a bunch of crazy stuff that I don't feel like he would have been able to pull off in real life. So to me it felt a little bit more far-fetched than the first book, so that's why I didn't really enjoy it as much. With that being said, I liked this book, and I thought it was a really good read, and if you like the first book, I think you will enjoy this one. But in my opinion, some things were just more ideal in the first book than in this book. And I feel like the reason why the first book was kind of more scary and more like hit close to home is just because everyone's scared of that real life villain that could actually do these things in real life, whereas in the second book I felt like he was able to do things that I feel like he probably wouldn't have been able to do in real life. So it just seemed like everything was too convenient. Everything was just coming easy to him. He didn't have to work too hard to make every little thing that he planned out to work. So I just don't know. Some of it just felt a little far-fetched, but I still enjoyed the book in spite of all that. Now with the ending, it left off on such a cliffhanger that I really want to know what happens next. So I can't wait for the next book to come out, because this book just takes such a turn in the end that I don't know how it's gonna what's gonna happen and where it's gonna go from there. So I'm really anxious for her to come out with the next book, so I can finally figure out where the whole story is going. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Please let me know if you read You, or if you're looking to read Hidden Bodies. I highly recommend. You is on my top bookshelf on Goodreads, so I really enjoyed that book and I like the series a lot. Please let me know if you've read Hidden Bodies and let me know what you thought. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.